Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to your guide to weight loss. This is lesson 2 or step 2. If you haven't had a chance to listen to the first one, I do recommend that you go back and do so. This is meant to be listened to in order as it builds from one lesson to another. So those of you who are with me that have listened to the first episode, do tell, how did the homework go? Did you do it? Did you do every single day? Did you make it all 7? Let me guess. Either you listened but didn't actually do anything. You listened and maybe didn't take it seriously, that you had to start really small, bit off maybe a little bit more than you could chew, and perhaps only did it a couple days, but you have some really good excuses as to why that is. You had to pick the kids up, you had a big thing at work, you had a weekend away, right? Lots of good reasons. Not going to question you. Or maybe you are part of the superstar group that listened to everything that I said. You broke your habit down to the smallest possible bit. You managed to do it at the same time every single day. Gold star to you. And you are in the minority, I would wager. Now, I don't want to say that I set anyone up to fail, because I did not. I think you'll remember that I did in fact say I couldn't teach you after just one 25-minute video how to successfully lose weight. And I think I also said that changing your habits and making new habits is the foundation or the bedrock to weight loss. So if I was able to get you to start a brand new habit and keep it for 7 days in a row after one 25-minute video, well, first of all, that would be really impressive on my part. And second of all, it'd be really impressive on your part. But odds are that's not what happened, right? Odds are one of the first 2 things happened for you, but that's okay. That's okay. This was a learning opportunity, right? I also said that we learn by doing, and the experience of not being able to form even the tiniest of habits for just 1 week is, I think, a more powerful way for you to understand the difficulty of habit change than just hearing me talk about it. When I said that what you need to do to lose weight is very simple, what I did not say is that it's easy. On the contrary, I don't think it's very easy at all, because what you have to do to lose weight is change your routine, change your habits. And changing your habits is incredibly difficult, more difficult than it sounds like it should be. It is not surprising to me that somewhere between 95 and like 99% of diets fail. That's true. Look it up, Google it. There is a very low success rate when it comes to dieting. So why is that? Well, I'll tell you why I believe that is because changing your habits is incredibly hard. And if you want to have any chance of success of being able to do that, you need to have focused attention. That means that you need to kind of wake up, snap out of it, pay attention, be mindful, and actively work on changing your habit. It is not something that you can blow off and not really think about. If you do, it will not work. It is not going to happen for you. Basically, if you don't change the habits that you currently have that are keeping the extra weight on your body, then you will continue to keep the extra weight on your body. It is paramount in this process for you to change the habits that keep you where you are. Right? We want to go from here to here, then we need to stop doing all the things that we're doing now and start to change them into the things that we will need to be doing in order to reach our goals. Now, surely you must realize that since I said that this is the foundation or the bedrock to what I believe is the crucial element in weight loss, you didn't really think that I was going to just spend the one video on it and then move on, right? This is really, really important stuff. I really want you to get it. So that is going to be the focus of what we talk about today. Forming new habits is the scaffolding onto which everything else I teach you about weight loss is going to be built on. So what I mean by that is if you're unable to figure out how to form new habits, then you are not going to be able to incorporate all of the information that I'll be giving you about weight loss into your life, into your routines. and nothing's going to be any different for you. Okay, I realize I've really been beating the drum about forming habits here, and here's why. If you have been trying for a really hard time to lose weight and you've been unsuccessful, I don't believe it is because you don't know what to do. I believe it's because you don't know how to do it. What do I mean by that? The what to do is some combination of diet and exercise, right? This is what we've all come to understand about, living a healthy lifestyle, about losing weight. We have to change what we eat, how much we eat, how often we eat, and how we move our bodies. I think we could probably all agree that some combination of change in those areas must happen in order for the weight to come off of our body. Yes? Now, the number of possible combinations that exist in a configuration of what you should eat, when you should eat, how much you should eat, how much you should exercise, what kind of exercise you should use, the number of possibilities is pretty much endless, right? There's probably more opinions on what you should eat than there are people at this point. I truly believe that to be so. So it is, I think, pretty difficult to try and parse out what the exact perfect strategy is for a person with your unique situation to do to optimize your weight loss. Fortunately, I don't think it's got to be perfect. I think it's just got to be close. Okay. I think that human beings are incredibly resilient. We can live on the equator and we can live in the Arctic, right? Some people choose, well, I don't know if we can live in the Arctic. Can we live in the Arctic? I don't know. People live in Alaska though, for some reason. So we can live in very diverse environments and somehow we manage to make it through. With the sheer volume of different food choices available to us, surely you could find some combination that will work for you. So I want you to think about all the different types of weight loss advice out there and what exactly they're advising you on. If it has to do with what kind of diet you should be eating, such as paleo or vegetarian or vegan or carnivore or intuitive eating or Whole30 or low fat, low carb, low calorie, whatever, that is all what you should do. So if somebody's saying, I'll tell you how to lose weight, follow this diet, they're not really telling you how to lose weight. They're telling you what diet to follow. They're telling you what to do, which is eat less fat, eat less carbs, eat high protein, whatever the case. It is all what to do, what to do, what to do. Very few people that are telling you how to lose weight are telling you how to follow their program. They're just telling you their program. They're giving you the what to do. That doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what the most current statistics are, but I've written a whole lot of papers on the obesity epidemic in our country, and every single time it seemed to have been getting worse. A very large portion of people in our country, in my country, in the United States, is overweight or obese. And that number is not getting smaller, it's getting bigger. I don't think that we have a knowledge problem. There are so many books and articles and videos and resources on what a person needs to do to lose weight. And I honestly think if you followed most of them, you would in fact lose weight. But the problem isn't that people don't know what they're supposed to do. Here's one way I can prove that quickly. Have you ever met a healthcare worker or a physician that had extra weight on their body? Have you been told by a healthcare worker or physician who had extra weight on their body what you should do to lose yours? Has it occurred to you that maybe if they can't do it, how do they expect me to? I sure have. I've had that experience. I've been on the other side of that experience and it stinks. Unfortunately, knowing what you need to do to lose weight is not enough. This is not a what problem. This is a how problem. So if somebody was able to tell you the exactly perfect meal plan for you specifically on how to lose weight, gave you that information with a bow, would that help you lose weight if you knew exactly what you were supposed to eat every day? No, I don't think that it would. And here's why. because they would be telling you what to do, but they wouldn't be telling you how to do it. In fact, I'm sure you've had the experience where you look at some of these programs and you wonder, how on earth can I get myself to eat that way? How on earth do I get from my current diet to my optimal diet? And what the real question that people are really asking themselves is, how do I make myself do it? Right? Have you ever had that? How can I make myself do this? How do I motivate myself to do this? How do I have the willpower to do this? Y'all, if you are waiting for motivation or willpower to come rescue you, honestly, I have a theory that they don't exist. They are mythical creatures like unicorns or fairies. No disrespect to Tinkerbell. Or even if they're real, if they truly exist, then I think they're those rare creatures like black swans, something that you can't really count on showing up for you every day. That's what I think about motivation and willpower. What I'm saying is, you're on your own. No one is coming to rescue you. Certainly not motivation, certainly not willpower. Here's another thing I want you to realize. People that can somehow get up when it is cold and dark outside an hour before they would normally need to get up to go to work so they can go to the gym and exercise, if they had to depend on motivation to do that, they wouldn't be doing it either. The people that are able to turn down the office birthday cake, that are able to skip dessert, that are able to say no thank you when someone is passing out their kids' leftover Halloween candy, if they had to depend on willpower to do that every time, they wouldn't be able to. So if it's not motivation and it's not willpower, how on earth are people able to get themselves to do things that they don't want to do? How indeed, right? That is exactly the issue when it comes to weight loss, because we don't want to give up the foods that we like to eat. We don't want to go get hot and sweaty before work. We don't want to have to think about food all the time. We don't want to have to track every bite that we put in our mouth, or count calories or macros or fat grams or carbs. We don't want to do any of that. We want to be able to just live our lives and eat what we want and not have to deal with having extra weight on our body. That's what we really want to do. The crux of the problem is, how do I get myself to do something I don't want to do? The crux of the problem is not what is the best meal plan for weight loss? What is the best exercise routine? No. Like, you can fine tune that later. That's not the main issue here. The what isn't the problem. It's the how. How do I change what I'm currently eating into what I should be eating for weight loss? How do I get myself to exercise for weight maintenance when I don't really feel like exercising? How do I make myself do something that I don't particularly want to do? And how do I make myself do it for years and years and years on end? Well, I told you how. You change your habits. And you might be thinking, okay, knucklehead, you have in fact said that, but how am I supposed to do that? It is changing the routines of your life. It is changing the things that you do on a daily basis, going from what you are doing now, which is not serving you, and moving toward what you could be doing that is a healthier choice, a healthier set of choices, a healthier set of routines that move you from being in a body that's overweight into a body that has less fat on. So you're with me, right? You understand that we don't have a what problem. There isn't some magical meal plan that once you know it is going to alter your state forever and you're going to be able to lose the weight without having another thought. Oh, thank goodness. Now I know exactly what I need to buy at the grocery store and cook every night. All the weight's just going to magically fall off, right? You think that's really what's going to happen? You think this is a what problem? No, this is a how problem. How? How do I make myself do it? Okay, I got you. I will tell you how. But first, I need you to really understand what habit is. The thing is, our brains are kind of lazy. Okay. And I don't mean that in like an offensive way. We live in an incredibly complex world. And if we had to actively think about every action we took all day, it would require way too much energy and way too much focus on our part. For example, when you wake up in the morning, if you could not depend on habits, then you would have to consciously think, open your eyes, sit up, swing your legs around, stand up, walk to the bathroom, turn on the light, pull down your pants, sit on the toilet, empty your butt, right? Are you already exhausted thinking about that? And we haven't even made it into the first minute of our day. We do not function well if we do not have routines that we depend on to keep us moving without having to think about it. So that is like kind of the simplest things, right? Those automatic things that we do when we get up in the morning. But what about more complex activities? For example, driving is a pretty complex activity. Have you ever had the experience where you get in your car to go to work and then you're in the parking lot and you have no idea how you got there? Like you are turning your car off and you have that moment of disorientation because you don't really remember that drive at all. Has that ever happened to you? If it has, then you have experienced the power of habit and routines that your brain depends on to keep you moving. It's not like when you drove to work that day, there weren't a whole lot of complex maneuvers that you had to do. You still had to navigate traffic, keep your car on the road, make all the turns that you need to make to get yourself to where you want to go. It's not like it was somehow easier. It was still just as complex as it always was. What happens to us when we have that experience is we've kind of gone on an automatic pilot. And usually when that happens to us, aren't we usually thinking about other things? We have all of this other stuff going on, and we have made that drive so many times that our brain doesn't prioritize focused attention on that task. Your brain kind of gives you space to focus on, those thoughts that are in the forefront of your mind that are pulling your attention away to the routine, mundane task of driving yourself to work. Sometimes when I've had that experience, I've thought, oh my God, if I ran somebody over, would I have even noticed? The answer is yes. You would have noticed. In fact, if there was any sort of detour, if the road that you normally took was closed or there was an accident and you were sent down an alternate route on roads that you're not familiar with, you absolutely would have snapped right out of that autopilot and put yourself in manual mode, and you would have focused. And when you got to work, you wouldn't have had that experience of not knowing how you got there. You would have remembered the fact that you had to detour around and take a new route. And that going from autopilot to manual mode is exactly what you need to do to change your habits. You've heard people talk about mindfulness. This is one of the applications of mindfulness that is very useful. That is flipping off autopilot, paying attention to what you're doing so that you can go from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things. So for example, if your automatic pilot has you going through drive-through on the way home every day, then snapping out of it and putting yourself on manual mode will help you to change that decision and make different choices. And if you want to build the habits that you're going to need to build for weight loss, unfortunately, you're going to have to do a whole lot of switching to manual mode, which is exhausting, right? When I was going through the morning routine, it felt a little overwhelming. Yes. The reason that people have a really hard time losing weight or even keeping it off after they've successfully lost it is because our body and our brain loves to switch us back into autopilot. And if you're able to lose weight by being conscious and aware for several months in a row, and then something happens to switch you back into autopilot, even good things, you go on vacation, somebody gets married, there's a new baby in the family, whatever, something shifts in what you are doing to create that new habit that's been helping you lose weight, and you automatically go back to what you were doing before. Your brain reruns the program that it was used to running before you were in manual mode. And since you're doing all of the things that you did before you lost the weight, which is all the things that caused you to gain the weight in the first place, all the weight comes back. Okay. So sometimes people talk about dieting as being time limited, and that's how it's sold. I talked to you about that last time, right? Lose 60 pounds in 6 weeks. What happens after the 6 weeks? If you were successful, by some magic, you lost that 60 pounds in 6 weeks. If you then went back into autopilot, you'd put it all back on because you would be doing all those same behaviors that put that weight on in the first place. That's why diets fail, because the autopilot is the pre-diet person. You need to change your autopilot into the healthy, new, fit person. So going back to the example of the people that are able to get themselves up first thing in the morning and go to the gym before work, they don't have any special superpowers. That's their autopilot that's doing that. It's not motivation. If they had to use motivation every day, they would have just as much trouble as you do. They're not. For them, getting up and going to the gym is part of that same set of routines and patterns and programs as getting up and going to the bathroom to empty your bladder when you wake up. That's how they do it. Same goes with the dietary patterns. Those people that seem to have a willpower of steel because they turn down the cake, they turn down the candy, you're seeing them pack healthy lunches every day. They don't have any special willpower that you couldn't possibly have. That's their routine. That's their habit that they're depending on. They're in autopilot when they do that. They are in autopilot when they turn those things down. So what you need to do is change your autopilot, change your habits, change your routine. Now, when I asked y'all last week to come up with something that you could do every day for a week, and I told you I trust your judgment, I'm sure you can come up with something, I meant that. I did. But did I really make that easy on you? When I said pick from anything you could possibly do to lose weight, was that helpful advice? Maybe not. And here's why. I'm not sure that it was especially kind to give you all of that leeway. Right? When it comes to making decisions, do you think it's easier to choose from every possibility that there is or a small handful of possibilities? I think instinctively that it's easier to choose from a narrowed down list. So I want to do that for you. Here's the thing about that. I am going to sound like I'm contradicting myself when I tell you what my ideal habit would be for you to start. Because on the one hand, I'm going to tell you that if you want to lose weight, that exercise is not actually the most powerful strategy. If you measure exercise versus diet for weight loss, diet wins pretty much every time. And it's not just me saying that based on my experience, although my experience absolutely bears that out. That is what the evidence says too. If you research exercise for weight loss, you're going to come up with a whole lot of studies where the exercise didn't really demonstrate that people lost a whole lot of weight from doing it. That said, it is almost impossible to overstate the benefits of exercise, or movement, as some people like to say. I've heard exercise described as the fountain of youth. It is good for your digestion. It is good for your heart. It is good for your mood. It is good for your sleep. I'm not sure that there is anything it isn't good for. It is incredibly good for you. It's just not the best initial weight loss strategy. What it is really good for in terms of weight loss, though, is weight maintenance. People who exercise have better odds at keeping their weight off in the long run. And here's the ugly truth. While weight loss is really hard, weight maintenance seems to be even more so. People that lose weight gain it back. That sucks. I'm sorry. That's just what happens. If you lose any significant amount of weight, the chances of you keeping it off past a year are very high. We've already talked about why. Now, I hate to bring in like a business book here, but there is this famous book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of those habits is to begin with the end in mind. In terms of weight loss, beginning with the end in mind means having your eye on maintenance from the very beginning. If I were able to pick what I would choose for you for your very first habit to start working on, even though it is not good for weight loss, I would still choose an exercise habit for you for 3 reasons. Number 1, exercise is so good for you that even if you're not able to lose the weight, if you're able to keep that stellar habit in your life, it is going to elevate your health. So I think it's worth it if you're only going to get one to get that one. So that's number 1. Number 2 is exercise is an excellent weight maintenance strategy, which means if you get that under your belt, if you're able to lose the weight and you still are keeping up with your exercise, then your odds of being able to keep your weight loss improve dramatically because you have an exercise habit in place. And number 3 is because I've heard exercise described as a keystone habit. There's this book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, where he calls exercise a keystone habit. And what he means by that is there are some habits that when you are able to put them in place in your life, it's not just that you get out of it. Those habits have a trickle down effect on everything else in your life. So if you're able to start an exercise habit, oftentimes you're also able to change your eating plan. So even though I don't necessarily believe that exercise is the best strategy for weight loss, I would still highly encourage you to consider that as your first habit to start, because it will trickle down for you, for your maintenance, for your sleep, for your mood, for all of these things that come into play when you're trying to change your diet, which is incredibly hard, which I would argue is even harder than to start an exercise program. Now, when I say exercise, I don't mean you need to start marathon training or doing laps or sitting on an exercise bike. Walking is exercise. That's what we're designed to do. Obviously, I don't know your situation, and I talked about this in the last video. Do what you can. And if your current state of health prohibits you from starting an exercise program, then obviously that's not a good first choice for you. But if it's not the case, then I would recommend it and I would consider that. So what if exercise is not where you want to start? What if you prefer to see more of an impact on the scale from the get-go? So you want to make a dietary change? Fine. So which dietary changes are going to have the most impact on the scale the most quickly? Well, I didn't promise you fast, if y'all will remember. However, first and foremost, if you are a drinker of sugar, like soda or juice or energy drinks, that's where I would start. I think it's nearly impossible to lose weight and to sip on sugary beverages all day long. And I'm not sure that there are any dietary programs that would argue that point with me. So pretty much whatever your dietary dogma is, drinking sugar is probably not going to work well in your program. Working on a habit that reduces how often and how much sugar you're drinking would be very impactful. If you can get that down to 0, even better. Another dietary habit that I highly recommend is to eliminate snacking from your diet, the habit of snacking. What do I mean by that? I mean, my recommendation is to go back to the olden days where we did meals. It means not nibbling on snacks between breakfast and lunch or lunch and dinner. The only time that you eat anything that has any protein, fat, carbohydrates, calories are during your meals. Only water or unsweetened beverages in between meals. Why am I recommending that you don't snack? I promise I will get to the science of why I recommend that in a future video, But please trust me, eating constantly throughout the day is not a good strategy for someone who is trying to lose weight. In a broader sense, I want you to think of it this way. If you are trying to tap into your fat storage, which is what we're trying to do when we lose weight, right? This whole time that I've been talking about weight loss, you do realize I'm talking about fat loss. We don't want to lose our bones and our muscles, right? We want to lose fat. And if we want to use our body's supply of extra fat, we need to compel our body to have a reason to use that fat. And if we are constantly putting something in our stomach all day long that can be used as energy, then our body has no real reason to tap into our body fat. If you wake up in the morning and start drinking sugar by way of a sweetened coffee first thing in the morning, then there's no reason for your body to use body fat after that point. It'll use what's in your stomach. And if you continue to snack all the way up until lunch, after lunch until dinner, from dinner until bedtime, then that whole time your body is going to go straight to what's in your stomach to use that for energy rather than using your fat storage. It has no reason to use your fat storage. So part of not snacking and giving yourselves breaks in between your meals is to compel your body to start using its stored energy instead of what's in your stomach for fuel. All right, so now you have something to work on, whether it be starting a movement program, whether it be giving up sugared beverages, whether it be giving up snacking, whether it be the thing that you came up with last time that you want to work on. Maybe you have a dietary plan that you're trying to follow. Whatever it is that you've chosen to start working on first, what I said last time still stands. I want you to break it down to the very smallest first step that you could possibly think of, figure out how you can put it into your day and start doing that. I would also really like for you to write it down. The who, the what, when, where, for how long, and why. Why am I going to do it? And that's a really key point. A lot of programs ask you why you're doing this. Now, I told you last time, your why is completely up to you. Your decision. Your why might be because you want to look better. Your why might be because you want to feel better, because you're having health issues you're trying to correct. You want to live longer. You want to be a better example for your grandchildren. Whatever it is, I would love for you to write down that why you're starting this habit. And the act of writing down the habit can be very powerful in helping to remind you about it. In fact, it would probably be a really good idea to write this information on a sticky note and put it somewhere where you can see it every day. Because one of the reasons that we don't stick with our habits is because we forget that we're trying to build them. Part of going into autopilot is we don't think about it. So when we go into manual mode, we got to have ways to snap us out of it and remember, oh, that's right, I'm forming this habit. I need to do that. Some people put reminders on their phone. I tend to ignore reminders on my phone, but that might work for you. Put it in your calendar, schedule it, find a way to put it in the forefront of your brain, to be in manual mode, to make sure that you make it happen in the same way that you would make a dentist appointment happen, or getting to your kid's soccer game happen, or a date with a friend happen, right? There are things that are important to you that you make sure you do. Make sure that this new habit is something that it's important to you. If it's not, then maybe weight loss isn't that important to you, because this is one and the same. Forming this new habit is how you're going to lose the weight. So if you can't kind of find a compelling enough reason to get yourself to start a new habit, then maybe you don't have a compelling enough reason to lose weight yet. And that's something to think about. Another thing that you can do is use a tracking app that serves two purposes. One, it's a reminder. So when you do the thing, you put it in a tracking app. There's one called Way of Life. I think there's another one called Streaks. There's several. If you search for them, I'm sure you could find one to put on your phone. And those can be not only reminders to do the habit, but they can also act as a reward. When you see a whole bunch of green bars in a row in the Way of Life app, for example, that you've done your habit every day, that's a little celebration. That's a little reward for you. And when you're trying to form a habit, it's important to celebrate yourself after you've done it. My go-to strategy has always been to put gold stars or stickers in the calendar when I do the thing that I'm trying to do. Exercise has almost always been the thing that I have been trying to make part of my daily habit. And so I have calendars upon calendars full of gold stars for every time that I've gone to the gym. A more recent development is I had fallen off the running wagon and I was trying to get back on, not only for my physical health, but for my mental health. And a friend asked for me to take a selfie after I got off the treadmill and sent it to her as kind of like a proof of life, right? Proof that I did it as an accountability technique. I did start doing that. I was sending her selfies of myself from the treadmill. And then I realized, A, she didn't necessarily want to get a sweaty picture of me every day, but B, that very act of turning the camera to myself after I exercise, smiling and giving myself a thumbs up became a reward to me that I look forward to, that I craved after I exercised. And if I was better with technology, I would start to put up the montage of workout photos because I have so many of them now, of the selfies, the post-run selfies that I've taken over it's been a long time, like at least a couple years now that I've been doing that, because I feel good and I love to see myself smiling back at me after I've gone for my run. So that's another thing that you can try. What I don't recommend is candy. Right? A reward for doing your habit should probably not be any kind of food. It can be giving yourself a high five in the mirror. It can be putting a gold star in the calendar. It can be taking a thumbs up selfie. It can be doing a little dance, but maybe stay away from the food rewards. We'll definitely talk about those later. They can be tricky. Well, y'all, that is it for today's lesson. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that I have somehow convinced you that the crux of this whole thing is not what to do, but how to do it. And the reason that you struggled in the past is probably not because you didn't know exactly what to do. It's probably because you didn't know exactly how to do it. I will, of course, be circling back to some conversations about habits going forward, but I am going to give you a little break. And next week, instead, we are going to talk about more of the science of weight gain and weight loss, so that while you're figuring your strategies out and what choices and what habits that you're going to make, that they can be a little bit more informed based on kind of what got you here, so that you know how you can get somewhere else. Make good choices, everybody. As a reminder, my name is Heather Shooker. I am a nurse practitioner, which means I'm a healthcare provider, but I am not your healthcare provider. So if any of the information that I covered in this video or any of my videos contradicts something that your healthcare provider has told you, please follow the advice of them rather than me. They know your history and I do not.